It's part 9, special senses, and we're just finishing up the sound or hearing aspect of special senses. And I'm reminding you of the midbrain here. This is the midbrain. The midbrain contains 4 little nubbins actually on the back of the midbrain called the corpora quadragemini. And here we have the inferior colliculi, which are the 2 lower of these little nubbins of, how shall I say, gray matter where there are synapses. So these are reflexes for hearing. We do have, aside from the inferior colliculi, we have the superior colliculi, which are above this, higher in the brain, and take care of reflexes for vision. Okay, so we have reflexes for both sound and for vision. So I want you to pay close attention that we actually got a synapse to happen right there on the main pathways to the cortex. Moving right along, now we're over in this area here. This is page 580 of special senses, and we're starting to consider now what is described as equilibrium, specifically static equilibrium. And we're looking deep into the vestibule here, and we have 2 encapsulated little areas here with some membrane encapsulating the area. Inside the membrane, remember, it is considered endolymph, and outside the membrane, it's considered paralymph. Inside, we have the hookup. We have the actual macula of the utricle here. Next door, we have a saccule also with a macula in a slightly different, how would I say, orientation. And then, of course, from one side of the head to the other, these orientations match up at 45 or 90 degree angles, that kind of thing. So over here, we have an actual picture or artistic rendition thereof. And so notice that there's a gelatinous substance that's resting on the depolarizing portion of the hair cell. The hair cell itself has these really interesting little hairs coming up off of it with a special sort of big toe, as it were, right on one side. So that's referred to as a kinocilium, is the one with the big toe, and then the rest are referred to as stereocilia, just extremely long cilia, okay, pushing upward. And they're slightly stiff, but they're maintained in their position by a gelatinous mass right here. In the gelatinous mass are otoliths. This always reminds me, for whatever reason, of Thanksgiving dinner, where some of the family members bring Jell-O molds filled with fruit and even marshmallows and things like that, and that sort of shimmers and shakes, and the fruit is moving it all around. So that's kind of the idea of this, actually, is that this is sort of like the little fruity pieces in the Thanksgiving gelatin. And so as you move your head, basically these little weighty devices here push the gelatin around and actually activate the depolarization event here, little transduction of a signal. Sodium crosses its channel. We have an action potential, and we get information traveling here. This is information of the proprioceptive sort, where you know when you've turned your head. Let's check it out over here. Notice that they have a diagram over here, a series, where the person is standing up straight, right? And then here's the brain up there, and then they turn their head to the right, they lean a little bit, they come back up straight, they lean a little to the left, right? And so the idea here is that, oh, they're doing it over here for us. Okay, so they're showing us that the kinocilium is oriented either toward one direction of the lean or the other. So you get something that's going to result in depolarization. If you lean the other way, you'll actually get hyperpolarization. So it's very clear to you on one side of your head, if you lean this way, then you're going to get hyperpolarization on one side, depolarization on the other. And then if the reverse is going to be the case. Right, so you know if you're leaning to the left or you're leaning to the right. This is known to you, okay? Because you've developed that interpretation of the information when it comes to you. This is static. If you press on the pedal of a really, really powerful engined car, it will propel you, it will accelerate you forward. So this is sort of measuring acceleration, except that when you're only moving in one direction, the acceleration is considered static, not dynamic. So it doesn't matter if it's the acceleration of gravity with respect to the Earth, or it's the acceleration of your car when you start off from a standing stop. Either one would be static equilibrium. On the other hand, should you turn a corner, right, or spin, then you're going to have something referred to as dynamic equilibrium, and you won't be using the saccule and the utricle anymore. You'll actually be using the semicircular canals, right? And the endolymph will be basically, because water is still, did you ever turn a cup of hot chocolate with marshmallows? And as you turn the cup, the hot chocolate inside and the marshmallows kind of stay still at first, and the cup turns and the marshmallows don't, and then eventually the liquid inside the cup begins to turn with the cup and the marshmallows are moving. Okay, so basically what will happen here is that once you start moving, you'll get things to, how shall I say, impact here at what's called the crista ampullaris. And then you stop, and then it turns out if you were to stop from your spinning of your cup of hot chocolate, once you got the hot chocolate moving, then the cup would stop, but the hot chocolate would keep right on moving. Okay, so that's one of the things that we actually experience called vertigo or dizziness. If you turn really quickly to the right, eventually the endolymph inside your semicircular canals are going to begin to match the speed of your semicircular canals. And then you stop suddenly, and the liquid inside keeps on going, but it's going in the opposite direction. Do you see that? So if I'm moving around here and I'm causing the liquid to deflect, eventually the liquid will begin to pick up speed as I'm moving to one direction, and then I'll stop suddenly, and then the liquid keeps on moving. Okay, and that's the problem with dizziness after spinning. Okay, we're actually able to replicate that with the use of ethyl alcohol, and hence our recreational types of beverages that help us to, if you imbibe enough alcohol, usually more than 1 ounce per hour, you get to this place called tipsy, where this sort of thing is happening whether you like it or not. Okay, so a little bit of entertainment there. So let's take a look here. This is called the vestibular nucleus right here, and there are a number of things that happen with this complex reflex system. It's actually more complex than is being illustrated on the page here, 583. So beware. If you get to a neuroscience course, the professor is going to hurt you a little bit. But the deal is that when you spin this way, or when you have a little bit of alcohol, or you have a fear of heights, vertigo, in any of those situations, you might get a little dizzy. And ultimately, we have this whole system that's actually built for scanning the horizon. And normally we would have spin the instructor at one of these moments, and maybe I'll actually spin with the the cell phone staring at my eyes. And I won't move my eyes, but I'll just move, and you can watch carefully my eyes flicking as I turn. Maybe I'll try to do that for you. I'll figure it out. Anyways, the idea here is that we have something referred to as visual nystagmus, or vestibular. Here it is, vestibular nystagmus, in which this basically it employs many parts of the brain, including the cerebellum, and it actually takes over reflexively parts of your anatomy, including your eyes. Right, so your eyes are actually going to twitch in the direction in which your eyes think that you're turning. Okay, I would like to do that for you on one of these little videos here, so let me try to figure that out. One of the problems with this, however, is that when your eyes twitch that way, it ultimately could result in motion sickness. So if you're in the back of a car reading, or you're on a boat in a stateroom and the boat is rocking and you're trying to read and you're not seeing what the actual events of your frame of reference are changing with the waves, you may end up with this mismatch of information which result in something called motion sickness. Okay, I'll be right back.